Hello everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 Mondays, and I want to show you this little, I'm going to try and play it without having to practice it, um, but this is reeds, and mathematically, the longer it is, the deeper it is. And so you have this wonderful, I'll try and play it a little bit, but this is the something new. So if you are new to Live at 5, be it Mondays for sure, but it may be on other days, just seeing as we're busy with this event, a lot of things going on in the world, and then something new at first, and then we get into some news, and I have something to explain, something to go over, a number of things to go through. Try to step back from, as I describe it, the wall, or as one of my teachers described, the quilt, and then we'll tell some jokes. But here's a reed flute, but I want to talk about something new with respect to reeds. But let's see if I can play it anything. It's a matter of how hard you blow and how you do your lips and stuff like that. But great instrument. So lower when it's longer. This is pure math. Music is pure math. So let's see how we can do this. Anyway, not that I'm going to play a song or anything. We'd have to think about that one. But reeds. So in Peru, I don't know if anybody's here. You can put your hand up or say something here. If you've been to Peru, in the lower part of Peru, not where Cusco is, or not where the jungles are to the north, like Iquitos and the Amazon River, but almost on the border of Bolivia, there's Puno. Puno is actually a good size place there, and off of Puno, from Puno, you can either stay on one of these islands, reed island. They're artificial islands made out of reeds. But there is, I'm going to post this link, but they put together something, dirt or clay, and they have them all together, and they make a base, and then it's almost like on stilts, or, I mean, we didn't get to see that when I went on just the morning tour. And then on top of that, they build everything on reeds. So they do almost like weaving, and they make huts, and there's, from what I can remember, there's about 400 families that live on this reed islands, and they have the school bus that comes from these artificial islands to the mainland to go to school. So can you imagine entire village made out of these reeds in this scenario, and there's a number of them, so they're not all together. And they explain it when you go on the tour. They actually explain how they do it. But let's just see. The Euros people have lived on this Lake Titicaca, for nearly 4,000 years. 1,200 villagers still live in and on those islands. Now, some of them are just very touristy. I guess some of them, the one I went on when I was walking around and looking in them, didn't seem to have too much in them, but they seem to live very simply anyway. This is one of the shots, if I can find it easily enough. They had the people who were doing the tour, I mean, tourism, make money. There was a little girl. She was about, I don't know, with hiding everything, but maybe 2.5, 3. And it was morning, but I just remember her seeing, I got a shot of her taking, she had a bag of, I'm just going to call it snacks. Snacks. And it wasn't chips, it wasn't, but it was cheesies or something, or nachos. And, and she was eating them. So I took a picture of her because I thought it was kind of cute in a sense. You're in a place of all places, but then I could see that they had large bottles of Coke, whatever those, I think 2-liter bottles. So that was in and around. But they have actually made progress with living on there. I think certain things around plumbing, and I think they have some energy, solar, those kind of things. But I found a good website here. I say good, whatever. A website that talks to the Reed Islands, so that you can look it up and and see what it's more about if you haven't heard of it before. But yeah, they're out there anchored. They take the boats out. Groups of people go out for a tour, and yeah, it's a certain reed, totora. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but totora reed, and then they kind of weave them together. So they look amazing, the huts and everything that they have on there, and it's quite lifted and raised. But when you walk on it, is interesting. It is spongy. It's not hard, but you feel safe. But they do, yeah, solar panels for lights and showers and charging electronics. And when I went there, and the fella who was our guide, we went over to another island to get some food, or you could buy food if you want, drinks, water, and things that they had there. But yeah, it's always something to learn. But you can stay there overnight. So Lonely Planet, as they call that one company that seems to travel all around the world. But there's actually one of the islands there, and it looks very nice, very, very nice here. But you can stay overnight. So I'm not sure if anybody would have any desire to do that. But there's a few pictures on here, so you'll be able to get really a good idea on even their costumes. In Peru, what I love about Peru is it's not costumes, their clothing, their traditional clothing is very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So I'll put that link down below. So hello and Happy New Year, because this is the new year. And I keep thinking about interesting, just as interesting, but in a different way. In a different way. Not the way it's unfolded the way it has. And surely there are different people are on different pages with what's going on. But what's kind of come to me in the last couple of weeks is the economics of this. The economics. I've been mentioning the Great Reset, but there's a particular person, I watched her video. I still thank people for sending me all the links. I know there's so much to watch, but I have a few things I do want to watch. And the one thing I wanted to watch today, because I gathered, initially I had watched 5 minutes, and I gathered from her, I'm going to like this lady. She's been in finance, she's been in housing, and she manages funds, and just the way she was approaching it and talking. My husband thought she was boring, but I really liked the information. And so I'm going to go through some of the things that she says, because I think on one level we are here, surreal or not surreal, scary or not scary, very fearful or not fearful at all. We have circumstances that have unfolded where I know I would share that red flags. Oh my, China again? Every virus seems to come out of China. And two, how can it possibly be a deadly virus if people are asymptomatic? Doesn't make sense. And then with research, you got the test. Okay, so Spain is kiboshed the test as being ineffective and not the right one. And then you have the symposium. I'm still watching the Stockholm Peace Summit. Not there. But Catherine Austin Fitz, she goes through. Now, it's about 48 minutes long, but I tell you, it's just packed. So I'm not going to repeat everything she says. Either you're going to be okay with the short form here, but what I like about it is the language she uses, and because language is everything when you're trying to put pieces together. The idea, I mean, she knows things about the banking. She knows things have shifted and changed the way they have. One of the things she mentions is in, I believe, in 1995, where a lot of the assets were taken out of America. She also names the they, which sometimes I will say they, thinking, well, it's not just one person that's created or fabricated this event. Hollywood in real life, I will call it. And she talks about Mr. Global. So I'm not going to be gender crazy. I mean, we do get crazy about so many different things, which causes how can I say it, causes disagreements, causes all that. Doesn't matter. Mr. Global. She calls it Mr. Global. We just kind of have to be okay with that. Yeah. So Sandra goes, yeah, very much filled with information. So the idea is when I'm telling people, masks don't, so that means that people are doing something and know they're doing it. But the big question to that is why? And this is where I've had to sit back and even over this a number of months is to try to get across simply about the why. It's about control. Now, all the pieces about how control, I'm gonna actually put a dash to slavery, okay? Controlling people, controlling. Now, we individually try to control. We try to control. So if we had to get a sense of control and controlling at our individual levels, we try to control the outcomes. Let's just say you try to control a party. Who's going to be there? How the conversations go? How good the food is? And then lo and behold, oh, this person can't come, and this is, these, stuff happens. And that's when we get into expectations. And that is very key here, people, the expectations. Mr. Global, as Catherine says, they have expectations. And so what I'm going to say quite easily here is those expectations don't have to come to fruition, which is what Catherine says as well. Catherine says as well, many other people will say, the now is the now, it's going on. But what happens tomorrow, what happens in the weeks to come, is completely up to the people. Now there, as she also says, they're very fearful of the people because there's a whole lot more of us. And so they don't want us to tie things together. They especially don't want to tie this event together to controlling people, to controlling via different pieces. If we have to look at it as a puzzle, we'll look at it as a puzzle. One piece being money. Ideally, at some point, we go back in time, the history of things, you can see, well, okay, now they created banks. Now they know who has money. Now they can use your money to reinvest. I mean, that's all simple stuff. Well, who cares if they know how much money I have? Well, now we're going to get into a whole different level. Okay, a whole different level. I was listening to Elon Musk speak about his upcoming predictions. And this is going to tie into Catherine's. Now, I'm not sure where I think it was on LinkedIn. He spends a bit of time on LinkedIn. And one of his predictions was putting all these satellites, having everybody connected, nobody left out, having medicines and vaccines available to people. Nobody is left out. And having food. So even this fake meat that they're coming out with, having food for everybody on the planet. Nobody is left out. This is kind of the messages that are coming through the Agenda 2030 that the individual countries or many individual countries have in play in the United Nations. So I wrote some notes here. Not that I want to remember. I could probably go off on the top of my head, but I want to make sure I have a little bit of structure here. So the idea is this is slavery. We, once upon a time on this planet, where slavery is back to Egyptians, whether you were Irish, British, French, or whatever, you could be of any culture and have been a slave if you were captured, if conquered certain lands, taken over ships. I mean, you became a slave, property of. If they could, they would. Africa was only another era in the slavery, and they needed workers for agriculture, getting agriculture going, and where does that left us, right? Depleted lands, creating all kinds of agriculture is creating a lot of problems for the earth as well. So then you have debt slavery, as I like to call it, where all of a sudden you don't even have to have the money yourself anymore. You get money up front so you can get what you want sooner. You don't have to work for it. In some ways you do, because you over time you've had to now fill in all kinds of paperwork and sign your name to things and all of that. But now we're getting into what they call, I don't know, there's probably different names to it, but a slavery where it could end up. Now I'm going to bring in the book Sapiens. If you haven't read the book Sapiens, I'm not pushing you to read the book Sapiens, but in the book Sapiens, it's laid out about using artificial intelligence and robotics. So we know robotics exist. And for some of us, we go, yay, there's the good side of it, but there's also the bad side of it. And where we've gotten with capitalism, where the very few are the very rich of this world, and perhaps fearful of us, what Catherine says, which is so, so true, and I've talked about our powers, one of them being purchasing powers, is that we continue to allow those people to get richer, we continue to allow them to have control, to do the EAI, artificial intelligence AI, to give our DNA freely to places like Ancestry.com and others, and experiment on our health, be it even with this. This is why I use the word poke. So everything, and you go through this video, it'll all make sense to you. But you have all these pieces to the puzzle. She puts them together, Catherine, as pillars. And each of these pillars, be it in one pillar, may be the pharmaceutical. Another pillar may be the financial. Another pillar, the artificial intelligence. They don't want to talk as if they know each other, right? Because then we might be able to figure it out. But they're all kind of connected. And what Elon Musk is doing with self-driving cars, putting technology, putting satellites, talking about overpopulated world, which I don't believe it is, and wanting to go out in space and just sending things out in space. Most of that allows, yes, some interesting sci-fi, Star Wars, if you're interested in Star Wars, not Star Wars, but Star Trek. I'll refer to Star Trek because I've watched every episode of all of them as a study, and she mentions there, and I'm going to talk about the Borg. So if you're familiar with Star Trek or not, the Borg was where these cubes, an artificial intelligence, they would go and conquer, well, could be ships, could be planets, and they brought people in. But what they did is they made them half machine, and I'm going to say not even half, maybe part machine and part human. But they connected them up to what they say in Star Trek is the Borg, the hive mind. Okay, the hive mind. So if you recall Star Trek, or if you want to watch some Star Trek now, the Borg comes in many of the different series. It comes into Voyager, it comes into anyway, Next Generation, I think, as well, and others. But the Borg, they used to like Borg cubes. But here's the deal. Some of what's happening, be it the poking that they're going to do, and nanotechnology, getting us familiar with nanotechnology, is to be able to put nanotechnology into our body. And you got all these satellites, and you got 5G, now they're talking about 6G. This is the mechanism that's going in our body that's going to allow them to control, to send the signals, not only for the physical body, not only to shut down your bank account, not only to perhaps do things to the mind, play with thoughts. I mean, so what we're doing is we are, by poking ourselves with foreign material, as she called it, mysterious stuff, it is allowing to build our body. Actually, they have them in the Borg. If they go, there's actually ones that they've rescued and they're taking apart, and within them they have all this nanotechnology that they have to take out of the body. Otherwise they may go through withdrawal, or otherwise they may die, because just the way it's being supported by the hive mind, by the controller. Okay? So if we want to know why this is all happening, it is to do with technology. It is to do with controlling. It is to do with maybe the next level of slavery. It's really, really, really simple. All of these other things that people are in fear about has nothing to do with it being real, as the viruses, and I've said before, viruses help us detox. Bacteria, viruses are on this planet. Most of them, an abundance of them, and I don't know like I know, but through my research, are good. We need them. We need them. Need them. That's probably the simple way to say it. So they have used something invisible, and I thought it was brilliant when I learned the coronavirus was actually a cold and was part of that virus. To use something so ambiguous, use something that everybody will have at one time or another. If they build up too much toxicity in their body, it's got to get out somehow. Got to get out. The metabolic processes that we have in our body produces our own inner toxicity. I go in detail in my book around it as it relates to the stages of diseases by Dr. Tilden. So this is all makes, it has to tie together. It has to tie together all of these pieces. So the control, simple things they started feeding people as they started with this whole event, caches, germy, and all that kind of stuff, which I just go, ridiculous. We've had cache for whatever. It's your environment. It's your physical environment. So let's get back to the poke. Okay, so with the poking that they're trying to do to more and more people, even though it seems like more and more people at least caught on that they don't want to be the part of the experiment. So whether it's 40%, 30%, 50% of the people don't want to take it, brilliant, disobey, don't take it. Don't know what it will take for some people. Don't. I think it's sometimes if I push, they shove back. They're determined to take a virus, a vaccine, which supposedly only deals with the symptoms. So that in itself should cause people to question. But let me go over what can happen within the immune system with the poking, okay? Because I think it's important that you understand. I think it's very, very important that we understand. And so when you have a genetic material, remember this new poke, I don't want to call it the other one because they say year of the J, and I don't want to give credence to that kind of thing. So by poking us, and the material that they're putting in is what they call mRNA. Well, let's just call it DNA stuff, right? And this stuff that they're putting in is going to go into, let's say, into our body, into every cell, but internally, and where our immune system is primarily is, the skin, the mucosa, the digestive system. But within our body, if it goes into our body, it's just going to go there, and it's going to embed itself in the cell. Now, when you do truly have a cold and get the coronavirus, the immune system is going to get into action. When the immune system gets into action, it's going to go, oh my gosh, this same material is in the cells. It's abundant. So that's what they've been talking about, a cytokine storm. So your immune system is going to launch a super battle that it never thought it would have to ever, but it's going to do what it's going to do for the reasons it's going to do. Now, I don't know exactly what that means for some people versus other people. It may be very bad news for some people, maybe not so much for others, but maybe you would get, as people have with these flu pokes, the worst flu they have ever had, or never got sick like this before. Draw the connection. Now, Dolores Cahill, who's out of Ireland, and she has spoken a number of times, she speaks more to that. So I'm going to find that link and put that up. She does a good description of what's going to happen into the body by having these foreign mRNAs or any DNA, whether it's the kidney stuff or this is foreign, and by having that injected into our body. So we can go on and on and on about big pharma. We can go on and on about medicines, about side effects and all of that. We could. But let's just simply put this as a brilliant plan or game to get people distracted and desire the things that wouldn't normally be able to be put through in any average, comfortable, time. Just the usual life as we knew it to be before this event. So this event, this scare, this bringing fear into the picture has created more worshiping of the government, more worshiping of those we believe have our authoritative figures, with not even questioning, but even then not even hearing. Because what I see from mainstream media is they take what they want to put you in more fear. So I've seen a big disconnect between listening to the press conferences and going to the actual websites and the mainstream media. I've seen a disconnect between the two. And what do people want to hear? Well, just tell me how many cases. Because in their mind, to get back to normal is 0 cases when the tests don't even have any relevance. They can do more cycles, everybody's positive. Less cycles, great. We can now tell the world the masks work. You can see how that plays out. So again, without going into all the different little pieces of the event and the pandemic that they have created to get people to believe in locking down businesses and economies. Why? Because then you destroy those people's way of independence. Now, I've talked about the Inuit people and my research on that because I sell the seal oil, but there's really good reasons for that as far as brain functioning and decalcifying the pineal and decalcifying and detoxifying our body in general, because it's mammalian and it's like and it works very well and it's very effective, just like breast milk is to babies, all of that stuff. But the idea for the Inuit, back to the Inuit, I believe that they started this stop the seal hunt business to discredit the seal hunt so that the Inuit people would not have their independence, because that was their cash. That was their currency, the currency that they took in from around the world was gone or disintegrating, disappearing, being a problem. A lot of people would stop buying. They fell into that whole mindset of global, poor animals, all that kind of thing. I'm not saying there isn't horrific things going on with animals. Not at all. Hey, sis. And hi, beautiful Sharon, and smart lady. Takes one to know one, I would say. So here, so let me just take a look at my notes. But the idea is they want things digital. Technology, digital. So sure, get us used to the computers, get us used to the cell phones, get us connected, get us addicted, get us appreciating what it does. I remember, I kind of started full-time where there was computers, but big boxes that just like our TVs. And I remember thinking it was easier just to do things with pen and paper than it was easy to do. So I'm not sure if I'm freezing here. There we go. Maybe not. Maybe I froze a little bit there. But with the technology, at once upon a time, I could easily realize it was much faster to do things with pen and paper than it was to boot up the machine, put it in these databases. But the processes, the regulations, the rules have left the station, but they don't exist for everyone. They don't exist here. And so, as Catherine says, the door is still open. as far as the people to be more aware and understand what's going on, so we cannot buy into it. We can, in some cases, say disobey, which I like the sound of that. Disobey, seriously. So when we think of all the satellites going up, when we think of 5G, this is all giving them the ability to surveil. In China, I've probably mentioned this before, they already have a system set into place. It's called something else, but this system, this one guy tested it and he jaywalked and he got a ticket within minutes and it was taken out of his bank account automatically. So if we're all linked up to technology and they're using humans right now to build this AI technology and robots and to make them what they are, eventually less humans, less humans, less humans, or part machine, part human, which is what Sapiens talk about. In the book Sapiens, there is only supposed to be a brief history of mankind, but he absolutely goes into the future, seeding the mind, I would call it. It seeds the mind. We need to, in essence, I remember I always had to give my head a shake after reading some of the information, so we have a habit of watching anything and taking it in as it's real. And when we hear it more times and we see it more times, we either get addicted to the sensation it gives us or we start to believe things. So there you go. Everything in the cloud. They want everything in the cloud. Yeah, credit, financial, pharma, military, they're part of it. So I'm going to put the link down below. There's also another website as well. Food. Food is another thing here for sure, but the solutions that Catherine goes into is very simple, is transparency. So by me coming on and talking to however few people there is, it's bringing transparency to what is going on. So I really, really encourage you to watch Catherine's video, no matter what you think about this or whatever, but watch it, study it. This is the difference between just listening to say, your egoic mind, yeah, I listen to it. Study it. Study it. Get in a piece of frame. Don't have anything else on. That's what I've learned in the last couple of years. I've watched people go, yeah, this guy's really cool. And then I watch them do 3 things at the same time while they're watching this person. And if I were to ask people, what did you think of the book Sapiens? Oh, it's great. Well, what was so great about it? They can't answer. What is so great about this person? They can't answer. So we're doing things, but we're actually not taking in the information. I'll post Dolores Cahill's because that'll give you a better idea on what's going to happen if you get the poke. And so transparency is number 1 step, and stop building and supporting what's going on. So if Amazon is in some ways a organization that is going to be part some sort of, I know she likened it to the CIA, but if it's something of that nature, then do we want to support it? Or do we want to support small businesses, entrepreneurs? Absolutely. So stop building it means you say no to meds. You only go to the doctor when you need to. Stop building it means, yeah, you don't buy from the big corporations. Now, if you go on to, I can't remember if it's the Great Reset, I'm almost sure it's that one, or if it's Agenda 2030, but one of them has a whole list of corporations on there. Check out those corporations. I'll put the link below. But check out those corporations and don't support them. That's what Catherine means by stop building. Not using certain banks. There's a number of banks on there, insurance companies. Listen, if you have it together, you don't need insurance. Maybe you need insurance on the mortgage, or yeah, they force you to get insurance on your car when really you couldn't care less. If you smashed it up, all right, get a new car for the worst. But we've got, we've been triggered by insurance, okay, insurance companies. But if you go on there and you see the corporation stopped it, then on the other side, support cash, support the local businesses. Think about what if you could build a small business, what would you do? Start asking yourself that question, especially if you're working for a bank, working for a corporation. How would you, or what would you do? How would you be an entrepreneur? What would you be doing to add to your... Now, part of it is food growing. You see that more and more. All these farmers markets, all these farmers, and of course they can trade, and they do trade with each other, learning to grow your own food, not because of fear, okay, but just because that may be what that's how you be an entrepreneur. That's how you survive. That's how you thrive. Yeah, so, she talks about rebuilding from the bottom up. Sure, if we're going to tear down something, then we got to build up something. We got to do things that way. But we stay away from centralization. If you've ever been in corporate, centralization is the things that they like to do, and then they decentralize, then they centralize, they go. But vertical integration is another way some of these corporations have become bigger and bigger. And also they buy out the little guys. The little guy, I can tell you this from experience, they will watch certain trends and certain companies and these big guys. And let's say organics is an example. I know it's a big, huge one, but they'll watch the companies and their sweat and time and energy that went into building the company that is somewhat a competitor. They will just, once it gets to a point where they'll just buy them out. The big companies will just buy out these ones that are these companies that are starting to thrive. Of course, people take the money and they go and retire, or they maybe start something else, but they buy them out, and then what can they do? They can change the formula, change the reason why the person set it up to begin with, all for money. Now, I'm not saying it's black and white. It's not. But the power we have, and purchasing power, is so powerful, so powerful. So everybody can start thinking about how you want to spend your money, and what can you do yourself, and perhaps you're addicted to coffee, perhaps you're addicted to certain things. What would you shift to from coffee that would give you the stimulation that you need in the morning, kind of thing, right? Because coffee is a big industry, and I know some people say it's just the one thing I have to say is it stimulates your nervous system, but it aggravates your nervous system. End of story. And if you take certain foods with your coffee, or iron supplements, forget it. You're not going to absorb anything. And it makes your colon lazy because it agitates your colon, makes you have a bowel movement. So you think, great, coffee every morning, then I go to the bathroom. Don't have any coffee, can't go to the bathroom. If you make your colon lazy, it's not a good thing. So we won't go in there. So Mr. Global exists, and we're thinking about technology for sure. And you've got the humans and the robots, and you've got the satellites, and you've got tracking, and you've got monitoring, and there's the good to that and the bad to it. If you have somebody who has if an elderly person, and a relative, a parent, whatever, and they've got all these devices that people can put on, and then you can monitor them from a distance. You can see how it's going. No different than the security system. But there is a downside. There is a downside that is coming with it. So if you're self-driving, if you put your car in self-driving, what happens if the Mr. Global says, we're taking the controls away from this person. Now, we're going to take the controls away from everybody in this city. They can't go outside of the city. You're in lockdown. And no, you don't have freedom to get in your car and drive, because you've handed over them access to control your vehicle. Right? So, the idea is, I love it. She says, oh, they're more fearful of us, and that's why, they'll play the games that they do, and not bring the secret, any secrecy that they've had, or anything they might have done, or anything that they want to choose to do. I mean, some might buy into it. Sure, turn me into half machine, half human. I'm okay with it. But I've heard so many people say, well, that's the way it's going. That's the way, we have to accept it. No, people, to understand the downside of what that means, you got to get out of the head and of what they're feeding, what information they're feeding. So that's that. So good news is the door's not closed, as Catherine says. I think I've gone through everything, and there is solutions to do. But it means wearing no mask. It means vocalizing in a way that nope, not going to do it. Nope, not going to do it. And the idea that they've done what they've done with military and policing and having people policing people is so inhumane. It's crazy. It's crazy. So what I'm just going to leave you with all of that, but watch the videos. Dolores Cahill, I think, is very short, but Catherine Austin Fitz is about 48 minutes. It's worth the watch, and it's worth the watch to watch with people and discuss it. And maybe you don't understand all of what she's saying. When you see it on paper, and if you draw it down yourself and mark and stop the video if you have to, and absorb what she's saying. But it really gets simple, so simple that really what is trying to happen here is control. And they're doing it in many different pillar-like ways, but they're all connected, but they're not telling us they're connected. And they're surely sharing the good, which is nobody will be left out. Nobody will be left out. Nobody will left. Yeah, that means they'll get food. Yep, that means they'll get universal income payments, so everybody will have money. But that doesn't mean you're going to have enough money to travel. That doesn't mean you're going to have enough money to buy what you want to buy. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to go where you want to go or do what you want to do. So lockdowns, just think of how crazy they've made these, not voluntary. Now they have tried, if you've forgotten, they have tried to make the vaccine mandatory in New Brunswick, Canada, and it wasn't passed. And the reason why it wasn't passed, it wasn't because all the people there didn't believe in vaccines. They believed in vaccines for the most part, but they had an issue with the freedom to choose. So their thing was, listen, if this vaccine is so good for us, then you've got to convince the people to take it. And we want to maintain the freedom of choice. But it was by a slim margin that it got voted down, as in no mandatory vaccine. So they tried it there, and they're going to keep trying things. Because the more they can take the control away from the people, the decision making, the freedom to choose, they're going to do that. And they've used this event wonderfully to do that. And how did they do it? But they put the fear into people. They put the fear into people. So we're just going to wrap up there. I'm not sure if any questions there, but that's the news. There's really much going on in the news, but I really think the why are they doing this, is probably the most valuable. Believe it or not. But having been in risk management, having been in finance, having been doing analytical work, an engineer mind, research, whatever, everything's got to fall together. It's got to make sense. This makes sense. And so there's so many things we're going to get distracted and can get distracted by, that we'll still have the fallback position for our individual selves to be calm, to do what makes us happy, to spread kindness, to have empathy and compassion. So not to get away from that. Everything of that is still the truth of the matter. Imagine what you want. Imagine freedoms, like you can see it, taste it, hear it, see it, So this is the whole visualizing and manifesting, like not out of fear, but out of the opposite of fear, which is out of love. So do it out of that aspect, because you love your freedom, and you love your family, and you love your kids, and you love the future generations, your children, your great-grandchildren. Do it out of that reason, okay? It's not a desperation that we want to feel. That is driven by fear. So any negative emotions are going to be driven by fear. Anything else is going to be love, but it's unconditional love, as they say. Right? So wonderful stuff. We're going to keep on sharing. So yes, you are freezing periodic, and then come back. Yep. Okay, enjoy your dinner, sis. So here's a few jokes, okay? Because jokes will lighten up us, lighten up the energy. All right. Nature abhors a vacuum, but not as much as a cat does. I guess they know cats are fearful of the loud noise of a vacuum. A red and a blue ship have just collided in the Caribbean, or Caribbean. The survivors are all marooned. So a play on colors there. Next. It was an emotional wedding. Even the cake was in tears. All right, I'm going to do one more. I like this one, talking about voting and all the voting fraud that's ever and forever gone on. Where do polar bears vote? Where do polar bears vote? Just like to give you a few seconds to think about it. There's a lot of bright minds, you know, a lot of bright minds out there. Where do polar bears vote? The North Pole. There you go. So I'll post these up in good time, and I'll leave the other ones in the calendar for another day. There's some good ones in there. Any questions, any comments, any opinions, beliefs, thoughts, post them below, and check out the links. So any of the Live at 5s is where I put the supporting links and research. So if you ever need to go back in time, you're looking for some material to watch. However, there's a lot of material, and I don't want that to take away from your you time, your family time, your relaxing time, your sleeping time, your running your business time. There's got to be a balance, a harmony. And talking about colors, red and blue making maroon, we just had on a philosopher's quip a question about color. So I'm just going to talk to this briefly. Actually, I could probably talk another one another day, but there is a difference in how you respond, or the chemicals in your body, how your body's responding to red, let's say the warm colors, red, orange, yellow, and versus the blues, purples, indigos on the other side. But there's a color in the middle. Do you know what color's in the middle? We're going to kind of get you to think about it. Isn't it fun? Use your brain. I have my walk club use their brain all the time. I get everybody to say their name as we go around in circle, and then afterwards, it just makes me smile. I said, okay, you passed your dementia test, and everybody knows who they are, so they can join us on the walk. But yeah, it's green. Green, and where's green? Heart, the center. So the green is a balancing color, a harmonious color. Be it nature, there's a lot of green. You know, a lot of green that covers the plant. The earth doesn't like to be bare, so green will cover it where there's a care. Oh, that kind of rhymes. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of point that out. So red will make you active. So on one end of the spectrum, positively, it'll get you into action. Red, this is why Feng Shui, have always a little bit of red. but it can also, it's the color of anger, right? So it gets, supposedly it gets the sympathetic in the moving, which is not a bad thing. So moving, 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 fight or flight, that part too. But getting into action and being active is not a bad thing. Whereas on the other side, blue will be calming, will be cooling. Now, if you're healing, that's a good thing. To have the calm, to have the cool, to have your senses, especially your eyesight, pick up the color, and that will put you into parasympathetic, which is wonderful for healing, wonderful for digesting, wonderful for being calm. And then you have the green in the middle. You have the green in the middle. So just pay attention to what colors you choose, what colors you have in your room, how you feel. It's a little bit of homework. I never write down what homework I give you, so no worries. If I kind of go, did you do your homework? It doesn't matter. But that's, in the moment of now, just look around and think about what colors you like and why. What colors have you chosen? But pay attention. I mean, as an artist and gone through, not entirely, didn't finish it, but the foundation courses in what we call here in Toronto OCA, but now OCAD, because it's Ontario College of Art and Design now, is color. I love that. But you can have a warm blue. You can have a cool red. So I'm just going to put that out there. So these various mixtures of colors that make the various shades of these colors could make a difference. Could make a difference. So, and it's interesting, we have red, yellow, and blue as the primary colors, but green is not in there. Green is not in there. So I thought that was interesting. But that's for me. Was thinking about that today, so I want to experiment. Hi, Angel. So thank you for coming and watching, and keep on laughing, finding your own jokes, sharing jokes, and whatever it is, it's always a fun way to do that. So take care. Bye for now. Again, Happy New Year. I'm sure there's a time frame we can continue to say that. So happy, happy, happy New Year. Why not? Let's be happy about transparency of certain information. I'll post those links after dinner sometime later this evening, and so you can have a look at them. But be reminded, make yourself a note, a sticky note, whatever, and to come back and watch them, because I'd rather focus on the why, and then, not, the no poke, that, and have people absolutely understand what that's about so they can make an educated choice in that respect. So there you go. So take care, everyone. Hope you're well. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you at Live at 5 again. Bye for now.